Together we learn, together we grow, together we heal, together we flow. Be cool, every teacher, every school. 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 Be cool, every teacher, every school.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Todd Schleister. As the lead learner for the SCEA Center for Educator Wellness and Learning. We call ourselves CEWL, that's CEWL, and you can find out more about what we do, which is improving the inner and outer lives of educators at CEWL.us, at CEWL.us. We just, over the summer, did a huge redesign of the website. We'd love your feedback on that and hope you enjoy perusing all the resources we have for educators on the website. Tonight, we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence, and this is something that I have been learning a lot about. I get geeked up about it for about a week or two, and then I move on to another subject, but I always come back to it because there's so many new developments in the world of artificial intelligence. If you haven't tried out, for example, ChatGPT, or over the spring, I was trying out Suno, which allows you to create music using AI. There's video creators, there's image creators. Meta or Facebook just built in the Llama AI into their software. So there's just a lot of things happening in the world of AI, and it is having and it will have profound implications across our society, including in education. And one of the things I've always been concerned about as we adopt new technologies is, what is this going to happen? How is this going to impact humanity? AI hopefully will be a partner, sort of a collaborator, and not a ruler of us all. And I think in order to make sure that doesn't happen, that the dystopian future doesn't happen, we have to start talking about it and thinking about it now. And teachers need to be a huge part of that conversation about how are we going to use AI in the classroom? What are we going to how are we going to utilize AI with our students in ways that are safe and effective, that prepare them for the future, but also this idea of augmenting the development of their social and emotional lives. So I got together with tonight's guest, and we talked about bridging AI and SEL and how we can have a conversation around that. Tonight's guest is a problem solver who can turn thoughts into action. He's energized when he examines all the pieces, takes control of a situation, and acts. His research investigates the literacy practices of individuals as they read, write, and communicate in online spaces. He's been involved in initiatives ranging from online and open pedagogy, integrating technology in the classroom, computational thinking, and supporting marginalized students in literacy practices. He's an associate professor of literacy education at College of Charleston. He's also a father, husband, and an award-winning online DJ. He also spends time with his family cooking or teaching his kids to hack and make things. Folks, please welcome tonight Dr. Ian Oburn. How are you doing tonight, Ian?
Living the dream, my friend. It's good to see you once again. It's good to be here, hanging out with the cool folks at CEWL. I love everything that you're all doing. I love the look and the feel. Every time we meet and chat, I'm just more and more. I want to be you all when I grow up. So I'm thankful to be here.
Be careful what you wish for. Did I miss anything in your bio that you want to share with folks before we jump?
No. I mean, it's most of all, I am thankful to be here. I am thankful for people that have stayed up to watch us talk about this topic. I know that people are dealing with a lot in their lives, so I'm appreciative to have these discussions. Especially this topic, I'm thankful for you to push my thinking about this, because when we think about AI and we think about impact of computing and programming in our lives and digital on our lives, it can go a lot of different ways. And
Yeah.
you have pushed me to think more about the human side and think about SEL and think about like what that how do we not lose as we move high tech, make sure we don't lose high touch.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it. I was One of the things I wanted to start off talking about is there are different camps when we talk about artificial intelligence. You can go on and down a Twitter rabbit hole,
Oh yeah.
and folks, some folks there think that we're going to reach AGI within the next year, artificial general intelligence, for those who may not know what that means. And then there's other people who are like, wait. Let's not get overly excited. That's not going to happen. We're a long way away from AGI. Talk a little bit about like how helping people kind of parse out the hype versus the real. Like, I mean, already there's some really fantastic and amazing things that it can do. I'm just shocked every time
Yeah.
Chat GPT, for example, to write something for me, how quickly it can do it and how well it can do it. But can you help people understand, first of all, what is artificial intelligence? How does that differ from AGI? And what are your perceptions in terms of where this is headed and how quickly we need to be preparing for what's coming?
So one of the things to keep in mind is that you're absolutely right. There's a lot of hype and hyperbole and hysteria around generative AI. You know, Chat GPT came into our lives not this past December, but the year before. So Chat GPT, this version is about a year and a half old. Um, you know, Chat GPT itself is one version, one iteration. Chat GPT was really released upon us almost as an accident. It was version 3.5. OpenAI, the company that was developing the model, they were getting ready to release the fourth generation. But then one of the things they wanted was the way to help the model learn is to give it unstructured, illogical questions in different languages. So they had the accidental yet brilliant idea to release a little sandbox, which we call ChatGPT, create a sandbox so that people can interact with that. We need, even though ChatGPT is a little over a year and a half old, these technologies have been with us for a long time. Machine learning, different versions of artificial intelligence, neural networks. We'll use a lot of different terminology, and I have blog posts and materials out there for us to take a look at some point. But these technologies have been with us for a long time. One of the things to keep in mind is that these technologies have been interacting with us it's been informing our Netflix feed. It's been informing how Netflix decides what shows to produce and what shows to ignore and can. It's been informing your Amazon purchase history. It's informing your ads. So a lot of machine learning technology has been paying attention to the signals that we leave behind in digital spaces for some time. Now, this recent iteration, it's exciting to me because it's empowering. Because now, for the most part, the internet has been largely unintelligible for some time, but now we can sort of like interact with these models and make sense of it. But at its base level, AI, artificial intelligence, is technology that's enabling machines to perform tasks that require human intelligence. So what we're talking about is an algorithm. An algorithm is a recipe. It's a set of steps. It's a set of instructions. So if we're going to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and we expect to see the peanut butter and jelly sandwich on the other end of the spectrum, we know that Some of us are going to have bread and peanut butter and jelly and a knife or a spreader. There's people that are in the camp that are going to put the peanut butter and jelly in one bread and slap it together. And then other people, I don't know why they do this, but then, they'll put peanut butter on one side, jelly in the other. But at the end, you have that peanut butter jelly sandwich. It is a recipe. It is a list of instructions to get us to a certain point. So what's happening is with machine learning, we're teaching machines, we're giving them data to make sense of patterns and themes and abstractions, different fundamental components of ideas to achieve an end result. For the most part, a lot of the AI models that you're seeing right now are large language models. They're specifically built using, for the most part, standard academic English, and they are spitting out standard academic English. We're starting to see one of the buzzwords in our space is now multimodal, which those of us in digital literacy, we've been talking about multimodal for decades now, but now it's basically saying, and Google today had a keynote about their new AI tools and products. They're really hyping the fact that it's multimodal. It can pay attention to an image and then make that into text or audio and stuff like that. So it basically, AI works by learning from data. So we should have questions about that data and where that data comes from. Most of the models, when ChatGPT came out, most of the models were built using like the Google book indexing search, Wikipedia, Reddit, stuff that was scraped from online spaces, and then they would put it through and teach the models. Now we're getting to the point where if the model is not learning, if the agent is not learning from people interacting with it, then companies are starting to artificially generate data using AI tools to teach the AI tool. So we have to have a discussion about that. But it's learning from data, making decisions based upon what it learns over time, and we can talk about that in a second. But it should improve with more data and feedback. So in terms of learning, I'll just real quick. One of the things that in machine learning, what the models are usually doing is they're learning from supervised or unsupervised learning. Speaking of educators now, you know what that is. So supervised learning is basically we give the data, the agent, the model, we give it a set of data and we tell it what to look for in that data. This is a bunch of pictures of apples. And when it comes back and shows us a picture of a pear, we say, no, that's not a pear. That's not an apple. That's a pear. Unsupervised is we give it a data set that's and say, go forth into this data and tell us what you find. And then there might be some human supervision on the outset to say, no, let's reframe what you identified there.
Do you sense that there are, how high is your level of concern when folks say that it's sort of like a genie in a bottle and that we're almost like this biological bootloader for this new species? I mean, you've heard, I don't know, Ray Kurzweil at Google talks about the singularity. Just all of a sudden we reach this place and then it kind of gets out of our hands because the AI is so much more powerful and more intelligent than we are. And then it just grows exponentially. How concerned are you about that? And how far away do you think we are from that?
We need to have discussions about ethics. When I'm thinking about the average person that's using these tools, I want us to have a discussion about what's the data that's being used in this? What data is it capturing about me? Think about my data privacy practices and stuff like that. I want to think about the money and the motivation behind these companies. So we talked about ChatGPT. If we're talking about OpenAI, the company that is responsible for OpenAI, I think we need to have discussions about what is OpenAI, what is the ethics involved with OpenAI, where does their data go, where does it come from? I also believe that the internet, as I said before, has become largely unintelligible. What that means is that we have digital tools that are already talking to each other, and they are already communicating in ways that the people that are developing them, people far smarter than me, not smarter than you, but they don't understand what these machines are talking about. That's already happening.
Black box is that's the
Yeah,
best
I mean,
thing.
for the most part, and that's the challenge here is, do I have concerns about, when we talk about AI, one of the things that we try to put some boundaries around the discussion, because very quickly the discussion goes to Skynet and Terminator and stuff like
Right.
that.
Right.
The other challenge is, I try to have most of my discussions focused on, let's talk about ways that we can improve teaching and learning for students in our
Got it.
classrooms.
Got it.
There are discussions to be had for how do we help educators hack their classroom, because they're already running on fumes. And
Right.
so if there's ways that they can save time, we need to have that discussion. But I think first we need to talk about what it is, and then how might we use it in teaching and learning. Do I have concerns about the ethics involved and the data involved, and hacks and data privacy? Yeah, but those aren't the things that keep me up at night about AI. I have a different set of questions and concerns about AI that really that they keep me up at night, and it's not any of the things that we're talking about as of yet.
Okay. Do you want to talk about what those are? Do we want to
Yeah,
just
let's go into it.
go ahead and talk about what those are?
Yeah, so one of the things that keeps me up at night is that there's an old post from a Google employee that talks about a maker and a manager schedule, and the idea is that we need to schedule ourselves so that we are makers and we effectively use our creative time, and that we're not just managing time. And my concern is that most of these models are created either using information that was online a decade ago, and it's sort of like recalculating and regurgitating that information to create new information, but it's not really new. It's just new ideas based upon what the ideas were previously. And so when we think about human creativity, um, we are seeing, businesses, instead of hiring a creative firm, and investing in them to go create new things, we're now seeing businesses that are just hiring somebody that can do some script management
Right.
and negotiate some keywords, put it in the machine, and see what the machine spits out.
Mm.
And so in that, I have serious concerns about who is in charge of whom there. Like, who is the maker, who is the manager in that. If human beings now, we're just feeding these algorithms and these tools, information and queries to have it spit stuff back at us, then where do we get new human ingenuity, new creativity, stuff like that? We also see spaces where, as with always in technology, when new technology comes out, we have this fear that students in classrooms are going to use it just to cheat.
Mhm.
We saw this happen in COVID, where we had these uh, you know, directives that students should all have their cameras on in a Zoom call all the time,
Right.
ignoring the fact that they were living through a pandemic, ignoring for the fact that they may not have adequate Wi-Fi in their home, ignoring the fact that they're probably tuning into class from a library parking lot. But we had this belief that students are going to just use technology to cheat, and also we oftentimes resign ourselves to just, the genie's out of the bottle. There's nothing we could do about this. When I think that this really is a very empowering opportunity for us to figure out what these tools could and should do. We just have to change the way that we do school. Um, a lot of our systems have been based upon uh, standard academic English, proficiency in standard academic English, at least in our context. Your ability to sit in a classroom and listen, your ability to read and write and speak in standard academic English, your ability to be a good kid in school and listen to the teacher, your GPA, your ability to sit as we're doing here and sit on a camera and have words come out of your mouth and sound somewhat intelligent, your written sample. And now we have devices, we have models that can really replicate a lot of that and level the playing field in seconds.
Right.
And so we need to think deeply about what counts in our learning spaces.
Yeah, and I feel like there's some resistance there. There's like
Oh
some
yeah.
resistance because it's not how we've always done things. And it's like, well, there's just this reality. There's this harsh reality of this technology being here, and it is impacting. That's why one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation is because I feel like the primary purpose of school for most people in their minds is to prepare kids for a college or a career, which I've always said, yes, those things are important. But in this in this world that we're in right now, if that's your primary concern, it's really difficult to sort of even see a child who enters kindergarten. What career are we preparing them for
Yeah.
with the way we've always done things?
Yeah.
And so I've said, no matter what happens, no matter where that technology takes us, the student still has a social life and emotional life, mental health, physical health. And those things are absolute requisites to live a good life. So to me, like, I would like to see us rethink the priorities, because I think if you have all those things in line, as
Yeah.
like Maslow, if we have all those things in line, then we can adapt to whatever world comes our way in healthy ways. But if we're just focused on careers, well, I mean, what do we expect businesses to do with this technology? I would argue, and somebody, when we posted the link to this, somebody said what to the effect of, their concern is, this technology could be used to make all of our lives easier, where instead of working a 40-hour week, maybe you work a 30-hour week or 20-hour week. But what that's not going to happen. History tells us that what they'll do is just lay people off or expect greater productivity from you over those 40 hours. So I feel like we've got to figure out how to utilize this to actually make everybody's lives better instead of just a few people at the top. And in order to do that, I really feel like we've got to rethink what the primary purpose of school is.
Well, I mean, we have students in our classrooms that are training for jobs that don't exist yet.
Right.
And that's been happening for a decade now. And that is scary, but it's also wonderful at the same time. When innovation happens in society, we are given an opportunity to reevaluate and reinvestigate sort of what counts and how we do our regular business as a society. But the challenge is that we also recognize that, especially with digital, with any innovation, but with digital, we have disruption, but we also have dislocation.
Yeah.
We have large contingents of our population that are just lost. And we should do a better job helping all individuals negotiate that to mind that gap. And you and I, in our discussion to prep for this, this leads us into discussions about, my friends from across the pond will talk about universal basic income.
Right.
And they'll talk about, okay, you work 20 hours a week and you can use these tools to help you get other jobs done. And you can use these tools to help you learn that new language and help you move to a different part of the world and have a different career. You want to go into coding, you want to go into programming. There are a lot of jobs that are out there, and there are excellent tools that can help you be a pair programmer, like a buddy programming assistant, to help guide you along the way. As I'm building stuff on my website, as I'm tweaking things in my digital spaces, I use digital generative AI tools to help me learn how to code, because I don't have the time or the headspace to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting. I like, if you want a script for something, I'll just give an example, use case for me. So if I want a script for something, and I just don't know where to start, and I just give Chat GPT a prompt, there's a sense, I think most people feel like that it's cheating. I think what the mistake that people make is you just throw a prompt into Chat GPT and then you just read that, or you use that without fine tuning it yourself.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of people feel like this is cheating, and it's like, it's like saying, I'm not going to drive my car, I'm going to walk somewhere because it's cheating if I use the car. It doesn't make sense. And what I fear is, that a lot of educators are so hung up on teaching the way they were taught and seeing, like you said, AI as like a tool for cheaters or for shortcuts. And in actuality, it's just, it's like a really smart friend if you use it wisely. And I feel like that it's incumbent upon us to help students figure out how to do that.
Well, if we're training students to, I tell students in my classes, yes, if in some of my classes, I'm just teaching undergrads in college. In some of my classes, I'm working with, professional educators that are coming back for professional development. In some of my classes, I'm dealing with pre-service teachers, preparing them for the classroom. So I'm preparing those future high school English teachers and future middle school math teachers. And yes, if a student in their class just gets the output from ChatGPT, or one of my favorite tools that you didn't reference earlier is Claude.
Yeah.
If they're just copy pasting the output from that and putting it into their paper, yes, that's problematic. That's cheating.
Yes.
But if they are using that as a jumping off point, and they are modifying it for their own purposes, I see a lot of value in that. Talking earlier about what counts in our schools, I think a lot of our discussions around technology, and it's really come to a finer point thinking about generative AI and thinking about these impacts on our learning. There's a lot of privileging, about one way of learning over other ways of learning, or one way of knowing others. I hear a lot of dialogue that basically is in order to be a biology student, in order to be a biologist, in order to be a math teacher, in order to be that peanut butter and jelly maker that I discussed earlier, you have to learn how I learned. And the way that I learned was I bought this book, the 5th generation of that book, and now you're going to read the 7th generation. And if you watch a YouTube video of that, or listen to a podcast of that, or God forbid an audiobook, if you do a simulation, that's not real learning. That's not the way I did it.
Right.
So that doesn't count. I think that's problematic. I think that, we have a generation that, for better or worse, learns a lot through YouTube. We're sharing video out now. 2-3 people might learn from this. And there is we need to be more thoughtful about different ways that students learn, given different affordances at different spaces.
Yeah. And I feel like with AI coupled with augmented virtual reality, as that continues to progress, and the price points come down on headsets and subscriptions to different services, it's going to be really difficult for schools not to move in that direction when I can sit down and have a tutor who knows precisely where I am and where to take me.
Yep.
And can engage me in activities that are going to capture my attention, and move me along in my learning journey, versus a 1-to-30 ratio. That's often the case in a classroom, where that individual teacher is trying to differentiate instruction for 30 different minds. And that's just in this day and age, almost an impossible task to keep up with. I just feel like the temptation is going to be there to continue to move further and further towards the technology rather than away from it. And so that gets us to really to tonight's subject, which is knowing that that's probably coming. How do we ensure that as our kids put on these headsets or interface with artificial intelligence, that we don't lose some of the fundamental aspects of humanity that we want to maintain in our species through the next few generations? How do we do that? Because it feels like if the goals remain, let's increase test scores, and I can put a kid in a machine, I feel like we're going to, in that process of trying to maximize test scores, or if you're a company trying to maximize profits, we're going to really lose some of those fundamental aspects. So how do we prevent that?
Well, say first thing is having dialogue. If you're a parent or a caregiver or a guardian of a child that is interacting with spaces, I have a 4th grader that supposedly is going to school tomorrow. We're still drying out here. I have a ninth grader that supposedly is going to school tomorrow. And, I dream of, and not just dreaming, but I'm building AI models that can learn along with my kids. So my fourth grader, I want her to know, as she's learning math over the, fourth, fifth grade, sixth grade, there's huge growth is necessary. And so I really I'm building a model, an agent that can learn along with her. And so as she's learning and learning new concepts in math, it can pay attention to how she's trying to solve it. And as we think about zone of proximal development, it can raise and lower the level of
Right.
support,
Right.
raise and lower the level of scaffolding.
Right.
But most importantly is that I want an agent that's been learning along with her, so that later on when she encounters things that are more complicated,
Mm.
the bot, the agent, the tool can say, you're struggling with matrix algebra, but a lot of what you're doing here is stuff that you learned 2 years ago. And the way that we fixed that is you did this and did that, and
Right.
then that helped you along the way. That's, for me, that's the goal, is to have an agent, a little guide on the side, an accomplice that is there learning along with you, and it sort of like knows what you know. If you think about our work, I'm building I have an AI agent, a bot that has all my Google Docs, all my notes, all my blog posts, all my publications that have made it out into the wild, and the stuff that's in the trash heap, all my PowerPoints. And so as I read and as I consume podcasts, I put that into the same agent. So as I'm trying to create new things, it can pull different threads together and try and help me out.
And
Um,
how did
from
you
the
build that agent? Sorry to interrupt you, but how did you build that agent?
So there's different ways you can do it. The easiest way that folks can do it right now on the student side, one of the best AI tools to play with if you're in a K-12 is Conmigo right now. So the Khan Academy AI version, Conmigo, Kahnmigo, is a ton of fun. I purchased it for my kids. Conmigo will give little LinkedIn style. The LinkedIn has those little classes and stuff like that, but it will learn along with you. Um, I use open source tools because I do have concerns about the data and the machine learning for me. But one of the easiest ways that you can play with it now is either Notion. So I use Obsidian, an online open source note taking tool, but Notion is a tool that has pretty decent AI built into it. I think Anthropic is the company. I think Claude is the AI model that they have in Notion, which is the company that runs it is Anthropic.
Right.
Notion, what we'll do is it will pay attention to your notes. You can query, you can ask questions just about your notes and about all your materials. Another cool tool that is worth checking out is Notebook LM by Google. So Notebook LM, if you're a Google Apps for Education person, you can have your Google Docs. I think they limit you to like 10, and you can basically put it into a vault and ask questions and query the information there. But I think that for me, that's helpful because my brain is always going a million miles a minute, but I also as I consume new content in different spaces, I want to make sure that I can, if I'm reading a book, if I'm listening to an audiobook or podcast, I can pay attention to that and pull that thread in across my different spaces. So how do we not lose the human in that is one of the bigger questions that you were asking about and that you and I have talked about. So
Right, got it.
AI, we said, is technology that enables machines to perform tasks that require human intelligence. Most of the things that we've dealt with up to this point that we've seen, the generative AI, is large language models, LLMs. SEL, social emotional learning, focuses on helping students understand and manage emotions, build relationships, and make good decisions. Embedded in that, we see a lot of emotional awareness, communication, empathy, and problem solving. I should note that there are sectors of our population that aren't as approachable to SEL right now.
Right.
Okay, there's a lot of pushback to SEL,
Right.
and we can definitely get into that and talk about it. But we're trying to figure out in this talk, where do those things intersect and where do they engage with each other. I see there's different ways that I've already started to utilize AI to figure out what this looks like. The the number one way that I've used it, and I hope none of my colleagues are paying attention right now, is fostering empathy and social skills. And I learned this from an administrative office. I went to a school district's main office, their central headquarters, and we're talking. I was with all the tech people. We're talking about how they're using AI. And one of the things that they indicated is they primarily use AI, different tools, to modify and change and monitor the tone of their emails. Okay.
Right.
Um,
Right.
Now, I use a lot of my colleagues that don't want to use AI. They want to ban AI and all these other things. They're very quick to use Grammarly and Grammarly Pro. On my campus, we had a little pilot for Grammarly Pro last year. I'm hoping they bring it back. Um, I know a couple of my colleagues are watching this now. My writing can get pretty expansive and pretty thorough pretty quickly, and I need to do a better job writing without jargon and writing more simply and clearly. So for that, I'm thankful. But generative AI tools, Claude. There's another one called Pi, that is like an emotional bot.
Right.
And then ChatGPT do a relatively good job of simplifying the tone of your email. I had an email I needed to send out over the summer to somebody at the state level and another, couple higher ed folks. And I was like, asking my partner, who is my HR director, how to write this email and stuff like that. And finally, I said, forget it, put it in a chat GPT, and it spit out a perfect,
Yeah.
clear, concise email. So I think number one, fostering empathy, building social skills, um, building emotional intelligence, helping you see different sides of people's perspective. Um, I've used, not this summer, but last summer we were involved I was in a AI hackathon at Carnegie Mellon, and one of the tools that we are building was an AI agent, an LLM, large language model, that would sort of beta test an idea. And so the idea was that if I'm a pre-service teacher and I'm getting ready to go teach a classroom, there is a lot of power dynamics involved in the classroom, and you want to be able to prepare for any eventuality in that classroom. And so we repurposed an AI tool that was built by the Stanford labs, that you can create a little environment with different bots. So you can have like little non-player entities, or whatever they're called in gaming, non-player combatants. So you could create a little space, a classroom, and you can have different people in the classroom, and you could basically tell this agent, tell this chat GPT, for lack of a better term, what you want to teach and how you're going to teach it, and it'll give you feedback on how different people might approach that.
Yeah.
I would much rather, before I was going to go give a speech or a talk or a keynote or teach a class, I'd much rather sort of like acid test, beta test my ideas in an environment that when it's done, I can just delete it and walk away, and
Yeah.
sort of like prep
Right.
before going in and dealing with like real human beings.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that sort of environment or space is hugely invaluable. I also think that there is opportunities to, as I said before, have students learn along with the agent, learn along with the bot. We think we already see use cases with voice assistants. We see second language users integrating AI into their tools. You're another way that I think we can use AI tools as a way to test drive things before we go out into the real world. Once again, my example of my classroom teachers, my pre-service teachers, a lot of my students are still trying to figure out, how do we lesson plan, how do we unit plan, how do we prepare different strategies for the classroom, and having a tool that can create a lesson plan or a unit plan for you, a starting point before you walk into the classroom, is invaluable. Um, I make the case to my students that there's a fine line between making the lesson plan or unit plan and actually teaching it and operationalizing it. There's a big jump, but if you are, in student teaching, or you're in the classroom and you are up at midnight getting lesson plans ready to go, or 1 o'clock in the morning getting lesson plans ready to go, you need to go to sleep. You need to recharge your battery and get ready for the classroom. And if we can use some of these tools to help you and divert that energy to a much more profitable place, I think there's the need to do that.
Yeah. Um, One of the things that I think when we talk about bridging AI and SEL, we're going to have to examine sort of like what we're doing systemically. And what I mean by that is Steve Newsom's just written a piece, I haven't posted it yet, about how recess is gone,
Mhm.
largely gone, especially middle school and above. PE here in South Carolina, I think it's like a semester thing for 1 year
Yeah.
in school, and then you don't have to take it. We've largely eliminated field trips. Kids don't spend a lot of times outdoors. There's not a lot of unstructured social activities. I would like to see us, as we adopt this technology, and as we have kids more immersed in screens or virtual reality or whatever it is that they're immersed in, I like also making sure that we structure into the day times for kids to drop everything that's, plugged in
Mhm.
or electronic, and get outside and interact and move their bodies around.
Yeah.
Also incorporate more therapy, more opportunity for mental health services, because I feel like if we don't do that, if we don't start doing that and insist upon that within the system, we will continue to see a deterioration in students' mental health and teachers' mental health. I don't think I fear what's coming, because I don't think the human nervous system is aligned with the pace that technology is taking us.
Yeah.
We're like, it's like now, compared to when I was a kid, now kids have, text messages, snaps, Instagram, all the social media stuff, emails, all these different things, YouTube, all
Mhm.
this stuff coming their way. For me, it was like an Atari and, my TV, and, 20 channels on my TV. And that's about all the electronics that we had.
Yeah.
Everything else is like we're outside. And I feel like that has led to, and through the pandemic, we saw this accelerate because kids were kind of forced to be inside more. And then we saw this deterioration of mental health. And so for me, a big component of ensuring that SEL flourishes, along with the AI development, is we're going to have to restructure the schools to adopt all those things that I just mentioned.
Well, I think that it's the nice thing about these discussions is that they bleed off into other areas. When I talk about or teach about AI, computational thinking works its way in, or coding, or programming, or digital literacy, or a lot of these, thread in and out across different discussions. Um, Across this, we are seeing right now a more concerted effort, and I think there's different reasons for that. A more concerted effort to really question use of devices and role of technology in our lives. We see a concerted effort among certain groups that want to, here in this state, we have this notion of like banning all cell
Right,
phones.
right, right.
No real guidance on how to do that. No real guidance on what that actually means. Just this knee jerk reaction that we should ban these devices. I think that in order to what mindset should educators have? What mindset would I suggest that parents have? This is a lot of the spearhead of this lately is the Jonathan Haidt book. The Anxious Generation. The Haidt book. I think a lot of the push from the Haidt book right now is this like idea about banning cell phones. To me, the Haidt book wasn't really about banning cell phones. The Haidt book was about how we've moved away from play-based experiences with kids,
Right.
and we've moved more into like fear-based parenting. To me, it was more of a treatise from hate on those topics. But I mean, this is stuff that Dana Boyd has been writing about for decades. You know, Dana Boyd's It's Complicated is online. It's on her website. It's wonderful. But Dana Boyd was talking about this a decade ago. The hanging out, messing, the Hamago, hanging out, messing out, geeking, hanging out, messing around, geeking out research that happened a decade ago talks about this, how, you know, for the most part, we don't let our kids walk around the block. We don't let them go down to the corner
Mhm.
store anymore.
Right. Right.
You know, there is a lot of privilege involved in these discussions. You
Mhm.
know, when we get in these discussions, people are quick to indicate that, you know, well, Google employees indicate that they wouldn't have the school devices in their schools. I'm like, well, maybe a Google employee can afford to have that happen. You know, maybe
Right.
they have a parental guidance unit that can you know be there all the time. Um, but what do we do with our youth? What do we do? The number one thing I would suggest is that we have clear lines of communication with youth. I think that we learn from our children, we learn from students in our class. We privilege care, we privilege concern. We want to learn along with them. We are we're trying to figure out what role these devices have in our lives. We're trying to figure out what role AI has in our lives. For the classroom teachers that are watching this, I would urge you to allow students in your class to play with generative AI tools and see what they create. You
Yeah.
know, make your own version of that Google 20% time. But I would say we learn from kids, we listen to children, we have conversation about this. We try not to place our concerns, you know, and our fears about this on them. Um, you know, I think a lot of most of the in the digital spaces, a lot of the really interesting, uh, you know, heartening things that I see happening with technology is coming from youth. You know, I see it with the parkland kids, I see it with the
Mhm.
climate kids,
Yeah.
trying to make sure that they can better use these tools to advance their narratives. So Thomas says, what can we do to help protect ourselves with the new South Carolina trans bathroom bill? Good question, Thomas. No idea how to handle that one right now. That is a good question.
All right. So I will. So that is a great question, Thomas. We are going to have for members of the SCEA on Thursday evening at 6 o'clock. We're going to have a private event with 3 lawyers who are going to go over the 2 major new laws impacting educators this year. One on book bans, and the other on it's not on the bathroom bill, but it's on the outing trans students. So schools are now going to have to report a student who comes to you and says they have gender dysphoria, which I don't know how we're qualified to diagnose that, whether they've actually said that or not. But we're going to be doing that. So if you are a member of the SCEA, look in your email for a link to that event Thursday night at 6 o'clock.
Thank you for that question. I think that's one of the, you know, we talked earlier about things that keep me up at night. A lot of with AI, with generative AI, but really, I'm really interested in ways to help students in our classrooms, but also classroom teachers, you know, speak up, speak out, amplify their voices, you
Right.
know, amplify the voices of youth using technology.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, though,
Yeah.
Thomas.
Yeah. Absolutely. And this is you know, it's interesting if you the misinformation and disinformation that can really change people's perspectives is, you know, it's proliferating all over the place, and if we don't use the same tools to counter that and make sure that we create trustworthy, reliable, unbiased sources of accurate information, I do fear we just have a, you know, it's almost like you're heading into a dark age, despite the fact that you have, you know, unprecedented technological tools, which is strange that you would think that the technology would lead us to a, you know, a golden age, but it's I don't know. There are times when I'm concerned about how easily adopted bad ideas are.
Well, the thing is that, the internet has, my advisor, I think we're going on like 15 years now, that had a book, a handbook on digital literacy. And it began with he wrote the foreword that said, like, this will change everything.
Mhm.
And now I look back and I'm like, how naive were we that we thought that this would be a huge empowering moment.
Right, right.
Um, so I know that you're going to pull me in a second. Um, so a couple things, how could we bridge AI and SEL, and how can we
Mhm.
make sure that we keep the human in this so that we don't lose high touch when we go high tech. um, we have a lot of agency in this, especially youth in our classrooms, and especially educators. We sometimes forget the amount of power that we have in this, and we don't have to approach this as if we were just um, sold a bag of goods. Okay. So what does that mean? One, we can't forget what makes us human.
Mm.
Okay. We need to actively seek out those opportunities where we remember what makes us human beings. Okay. And crave those moments. Okay. We cannot, interact with these tools out of a sense of fear. Okay. And so what I think that we need to see more of is we need to have opportunities where we personalize learning and foster human connection. So when we've got those tiny tykes in our classroom, we have to recognize the time that we had them face to face and foster human connections. We need to figure out how can we use these data tools, use machine learning tools to get better insights in our classroom without compromising privacy. We shouldn't norm surveillance capitalism in our
Yeah,
schools.
that's right.
We need to figure out how can we privilege empathy, privilege emotional intelligence in digital and physical spaces. Okay. And so if we have concerns about the devices, concerns about machine learning or that chat GP, then when we do have students, we better really privilege the human side of stuff. We should be speaking up and speaking out to uh, demand and develop guidelines for ethical use of AI in and out of our learning spaces. Okay, this should be a full-throated exhortation from educators, from youth, that we need to know what is happening ethically. Okay, with ChatGPT or Claude or whatever tool it is,
Hmm.
what's happening behind the scenes with our data. We need more research. We need more research on AI in and out of our educational spaces. We also need educators to have the latitude to test these tools out without fear of test scores and everything else,
Right,
because if
right.
if they're going to try these things might not work perfectly. And last but not least, professional development opportunities. You and I talked a little bit about the CSPD week here in South Carolina. Computer Science Teachers Association runs CSPD week, Computer Science Professional Development, every year. It is wonderful here in South Carolina. CSTA does a wonderful job across the US, but we need to invest in our classroom teachers to go out and use and play and explore these technologies, but also use and explore Minecraft and robotics and AR and VR and coding and programming and all that stuff, and Python. But we need to invest in our educators, treat them like professionals, and allow them the time and space to explore these things and figure out what they really mean.
Yeah, well said. Appreciate all of that. It's it really is something that we need to be thinking of, and I feel like we're not talking about it enough. Whether that's in our school systems, or even like in the presidential race,
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about name calling and all this stuff that doesn't really fundamentally matter. And I don't hear a lot of conversation around artificial intelligence, and I feel like it's a really important conversation to have. And as you mentioned earlier, I when Andrew Yang was the first person I heard talking about UBI, who I really like listened to. I mean, that UBI concept, or universal basic income, is something that I don't think we can wait to have that conversation until things like have already unfolded, where now how do we make that happen. It's like we need to have these conversations of like, okay, in the short term, what do we do, and then in the long term, particularly in schools, how do we prepare, like we talked about, how do we structure schools in ways that are preparing kids a future that it's like we can't see over the event horizon. We can't really see what's coming, but there are some fundamental things that I think you and I both agree on that all kids are going to need to be successful. And that includes looking at their inner lives, making sure they're physically healthy, that they can get along, that we foster creativity, and that we keep those human elements that make us, those things that make us human, love, compassion, kindness, forgiveness, all of those sort of life skills that we used to teach, making sure that we prioritize those and give kids the opportunity to practice them, not just with an agent, but with each other.
Yeah.
But I appreciate this conversation, and look forward to continuing to collaborate. And I know we've talked about doing some retreats and some other events together. So I look forward to that. I just want to thank you for your time tonight, Ian.
Hey, thank you. This was a ton of fun. When I come back, we got to talk about intersectionality. I'm staring at Thomas's comment. We got to talk about gender and race and identity in digital. That there's a lot of work and discussion that needs to happen there as well. So
yeah, definitely be part 2 to this.
Yeah, most definitely. It's a ton of fun.
Thanks.
So how are you feeling right now about AI? You asked me what keeps me up at night. How are you feeling?
I have I vacillate between extreme excitement and enthusiasm and dread. I can see it going either way. It just depends. I mean, getting a little opinionated here. You have Elon Musk in charge of it. I worry about where we're headed.
No. I got some books for you to read. I'll send you a reading list. I got some really good stuff for you to read. They're real books. They have pages and numbers and words on them. So I'll send you some books that will help you think through this.
Okay,
You'll be okay on the other side.
That'd be great. I'm looking forward to it. For now, I just have fun creating the music and just seeing what it spits out when I prompt. I find it fascinating to work with it. So hopefully we will continue to develop it and work with it in ways that are productive for mankind.
Play and create.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much, Ian. Have a great night.
Thank you so much.
All right, everybody. That was Dr. Ian O'Byrne. If you want to learn more about Ian's work, this is the website. He has a blog. It's wioburn.com. Again, that's wioburne.com. And you can learn more about Dr. Byrne's work. And he has a bunch of blog posts and really cool information if you want to explore this topic in a little bit more depth. And of course, you can always go to the Cool website. We'll be posting this entire interview on the Cool website within the next few days. And all of our live streams are posted there at cool.us. And of course, we want to thank our sponsor for tonight, the South Carolina Education Association, the National Education Association. If you're interested in joining our movement, you can go to jointhescea.org. Or you can text the word join to 48744. I did want to show you something really quickly. So some of you may have seen on my personal Facebook page that I introduced a new member of the Cool staff, and his name is Art Fisher, and that was supposed to be my plan, artificial. But we created this video, so just to give you an idea of what artificial intelligence can do. I put into and this ties in with Thomas's question. So I put into ChatGPT, hey, can you talk about this new legislation impacting educators and trans students? Create a script for it. And then I put the script into another app called Argyle, and this is what it created. Check it out.
Today I want to talk about the danger of book bans. Book bans are already having major impacts across South Carolina, and they're hurting our students. When we ban books, we don't just remove words from shelves. We take away opportunities for students to explore new ideas, to see the world through different eyes, and to develop the critical thinking skills that are essential in today's world. Every book that's banned is a perspective lost, a lesson untaught, a conversation that could have broadened a young mind, but now never will. Students deserve access to a wide range of voices and experiences. By banning books, we deny them the chance to learn about others and themselves in a way that's both meaningful and transformative. Let's stand against book bans and ensure that every student in South Carolina has the freedom to read, to think, and to grow. Join our movement to protect freedom at jointhescea.org. We are stronger together.
And sorry, I meant the book ban issue, not the trans issue. And that's the worst that technology is ever going to be. So really fascinating. And a lot of people ask me, "Well, who's this art guy that you hired?" And I'm like, He's not real." Really, really fascinating technology. I do want to promote a couple of things. If you're interested in learning more about yoga, Alex Del Castillo does a Wind Down Wednesday. You can learn more about that on our Instagram and TikTok channels at the SCEA. Just go over there and just type in the SCEA. Links are also on the top of the cool site in the navigation. A few live streams that we have coming up. I'm really excited about this one. Mel Moore is going to be talking about how to advocate in the Palmetto State on September 12th at 7 o'clock. Mev McIntosh, who many of you may know, is going to be doing another session on advocacy. That's on the 24th at 7 o'clock. Jaleesa White, who was a keynote speaker at our Educator Health and Wellness Day over the summer, is going to be talking about how mindfulness changed her life. That's October 8th from 7 to 8 o'clock. We have Jaheim President, who's in his second year teaching. I believe he's at Berea Middle School in Greenville. And he's going to be reflecting on his first year of teaching. That's October 22nd at 7 o'clock. And Audrey Calianos, many of you recognize her from her Cool Bites series that she does for us. At that Educator Health and Wellness Day, she did a session on gut health and anxiety, and I found it to be absolutely fascinating and very, very helpful information. So that'll be October 24th from 7 to 8 o'clock. And for induction teachers, please save the date, November 9th from 10 to 3:30 in Columbia, South Carolina. We'll be holding our second teacher induction symposium, and the theme is officially changing the game. So please mark that on your calendars. November 9th is a Saturday. I want to thank again Dr. Eno Byrne for joining us tonight, and you for tuning in to watch this important conversation about artificial intelligence and social emotional learning. Hope that those of you who are returning to school, who are returned to school recently, we hope that you have a wonderful, amazing year. And please, reach out to us if you have any questions or you need anything at the SCEA. We're always here to help all the educators, all the public school educators in South Carolina. And again, if you'd like to join our movement, you can do that right here. Join the SCEA.org. We hope everybody has a wonderful start to the school year, and we look forward to seeing you on more cool